Hello everyone, my name is Harmony Eden. I want to share something personal today. I'm neurodivergent, and for the past few years, I've lived with certain thoughts and messages that return to my mind again and again. Messages about the world and about people. What I'm going to share today is one of those recurring messages, and it relates to Israel and the Jewish people. I want to say this clearly from the beginning. I'm not claiming this is absolute truth, and I'm not trying to speak for anyone. Some people might think what I'm about to say sounds unusual or even unrealistic. I understand that. But the reason I'm choosing to share is simple. The message itself feels positive, compassionate, and beautiful, and I'm hoping it can be received in that spirit. Also, I'm not an expert in world history or religion. I'm speaking as one person, honestly, gently, and with respect. One phrase that comes back to mind repeatedly is this: God knows. What I feel through this message is that God understands the intergenerational trauma many Jewish people have carried. Pain that doesn't end with one generation but can echo through families and communities. And along with that, God understands the chronic anxiety, the fear of uncertainty, and the grief that can come from a long history of persecution, displacement, and loss. Sometimes, the image that comes to mind is this: if Jewish history were compared to a person's psychological story, it could resemble something like complex trauma. Not because Jewish people are broken, but because the weight of history can shape the nervous system of a community, just as repeated trauma can shape an individual. The most repeated message I hear regarding the promised land is this: do not underestimate God's love for you. And in these thoughts, the promised land is not only a small piece of territory, not only something measured by borders or land area. It feels much larger than that. One interpretation that comes to me on a smaller scale is that promised land can also mean places where Jewish people have been able to rebuild safety and stability after enormous suffering. Places like North America. In that sense, the message feels like encouragement to establish roots, to thrive, and to bring the hard-earned knowledge and wisdom of survival into the wider society, especially through public service education, and leadership in many fields. Another theme that keeps returning is this idea. Because of Jewish history, Jewish people have developed a deep ability to ask essential questions, to think critically, and to pursue learning with intensity and purpose. In the message I feel, God has poured a great deal into teaching so that out of suffering, something powerful could emerge. Insight, compassion, and a kind of responsibility. And there's a reason the phrase intergenerational trauma keeps appearing in my mind. It feels like the message points outward, not only toward Jewish healing, but toward recognizing other peoples who also carry intergenerational trauma and caring for them actively. For example, in Canada, Indigenous peoples are often described through that lens, intergenerational trauma. In the message I feel, this isn't accidental. It's like an invitation for Jewish communities who understand trauma deeply to notice and support communities that may be even more vulnerable and to become leaders in healing, reconciliation, education, and compassion. But the promised land in the message I hear expands even beyond that. On a much larger scale, it sounds like this. Promised land can mean a world where peace and harmony grow so wide that anywhere on earth can feel like your home. A world where we are not trapped by us versus them, but learn to live as one human family. In this recurring message, I sense an invitation to use your education, psychology, philosophy, and lived wisdom to build bridges. Almost like an older sibling mindset, caring for other younger siblings, not with superiority, but with responsibility and love. I also want to acknowledge something important. The message does not deny fear. It recognizes that historical trauma can create anxiety and defensiveness. It understands how fear of uncertainty can make people protect themselves, but it also urges courage. Courage to overcome fear, to hold on to what has been learned about compassion and peace, and to choose non-violent, wise ways forward. A specific line that comes to mind often is, when trying to understand others, look through the lens of child psychology. In other words, many conflicts are not simply about good people and bad people. They can be about pain, development, unmet needs, ignorance, and different life experiences. differences in thinking can come from different levels of knowledge, different education, and different developmental path. And the message I feel is protect yourselves, yes, but also lead with education, empathy, and dignity. Finally, I keep hearing this hope. Even though there are many conflicts now, big and small, there will come a day when people can live like siblings, like family, and that love, compassion, education, and peace building can strengthen the future faster. In the message I feel, God is present in that process. So the ending of the message is something like this. Don't cling only to small, temporary, worldly things. Don't let fear rule you. Use what you have learned wisely and humbly to show leadership in global peace and in closing educational gaps. Carry faith and let love be visible through your actions. As a neurodivergent, I have carried these messages for years, and today I'm sharing them, knowing I might be misunderstood, because I didn't want to wait any longer. And I want to say this sincerely. You have no enemies. People who look different or think differently are not automatically your enemies. Often it's wounded people meeting other wounded people, especially when mental and spiritual well-being is weakened. That creates repeated conflict. I also feel strongly encouraged toward mindfulness in dialogue and peaceful resolution, using presence, self-awareness, and emotional regulation as real tools for peace. Thank you for listening. I'm wishing peace for all of you and for everyone connected to you. Thank you very much.